a modern highway at full speed. A sudden collision, metal screams against metal, and in less than a second, a human femur fails under pressure it was never meant to handle. Within minutes, emergency systems activate. Sirens slice through traffic. Within 12 minutes, you are inside an ambulance. Painkillers dull the chaos. Machines track your heartbeat. X-rays map your injury before your mind fully understands what happened. Now remove all of it, no sirens, no hospital, no medicine, no rescue. Just a forest floor soaked in cold air, stone, roots, silence, and you. One wrong step changes everything. A slip on wet ground, a twist that feels ordinary until it isn't, then crack. The bone doesn't simply break. It collapses under itself. Jagged fragments tear through muscle. Blood vessels rupture instantly. Your nervous system fires a signal so violent, your brain cannot process it as normal pain. It processes it as system failure. For a moment, there is no identity, no thoughts. Only a biological alarm screaming through every nerve in your body. You try to move. Nothing responds correctly. The leg is no longer part of your control system. And somewhere in the distance, the forest continues as if nothing happened. Because in nature, nothing pauses for you. We like to imagine ancient life as a test of strength. Only the strongest survive. Only the fastest escape. Only the toughest continue forward. And in that version of history, a broken bone is the end. A fracture equals abandonment. A disabled body equals removal from the group. But archaeology tells a more disturbing truth. Sometimes, broken bones heal, and that changes everything. In 1957, archaeologist Ralph Selecki uncovered remains deep inside Shanidar cave in Iraq. Among them was a Neanderthal known as Shanidar 1. This was not a simple skeleton. It showed catastrophic trauma, crushed skull, damaged arm, and severe leg injury that should have made independent survival impossible. And yet, it did not end his life quickly, it prolonged it, which raises a question that disrupts everything we assume about ancient survival. How does a broken human survive in a world that has no reason to keep them alive? The answer begins at the moment of collapse. At first, your body is not thinking, it is reacting. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream. Heart rate spikes. Your entire system enters emergency mode as if speed alone could reverse damage. Then pain arrives, not gradually, but completely. It fills your perception like fire filling a closed space. You scream, not as communication, but as biological overflow, a sound produced by a system trying to signal help in a world with no rescue system. And that sound does not disappear quietly. It travels across open land, where weakness is not hidden, it is exposed. Because in nature, injury is not private, it is broadcast, and now you are visible in the most dangerous way possible, as weakness. A group arrives, they see the angle of your leg, they understand immediately. Movement is gone, and movement is survival. In most of nature, this is the end, separation, abandonment to death. But early humans begin breaking that pattern. They do not leave, not because it is safe, but because survival is no longer purely individual. You are part of continuity now, and continuity has value. Then comes the hardest moment, the intervention. There is no anesthesia, no relief, only restraint. Hands press your body into the earth. Another grips your leg. You feel the change before it happens. Then the bone is forced back into alignment. Inside torn muscle, grinding, shifting, collapsing into place. The nervous system overloads instantly. Consciousness shuts down. Blackness is not peaceful. It is escape. When you return, your leg is no longer exposed. It is wrapped in bark, wood, and tightly bound hide. A primitive cast. As it dries, it tightens, becoming rigid. A prison that also preserves survival. But the real danger has already begun, not the fracture. Infection, dirt enters deep tissue. Bacteria multiply silently. At first nothing changes, then heat rises. Swelling spreads, fever takes over. Your body enters war mode. In modern life, antibiotics end this quickly. Here, there is no end. Only endurance, only waiting, only survival effort without certainty. Days become weeks, weeks become months. Inside the body, reconstruction begins, blood clots form structure. Soft cartilage bridges the fracture. Then bone cells rebuild slowly, relentlessly. But outside the body, something else is happening. Muscle weakens, strength fades, identity dissolves. You are no longer a hunter, no longer a mover. You are dependent existence. And in nature, dependency usually ends survival. But here, something unusual continues. You are kept alive, fed, watched, maintained. This is where survival becomes social. Someone chooses to stay, to delay their own advantage for your survival. And that decision creates something rare in nature: shared responsibility. Margaret Mead argued that civilization is not defined by tools or weapons, but by care for the injured, because tools exist in many species. But sustained care for weakness does not. Months later, something changes. Inside the splint, the bone is no longer fragile. A thick callus has formed where destruction once existed. It is imperfect, but stronger. The cast is removed. You stand, unsteady at first, then stable, then moving, not the same as before, but alive again. A body that should have been removed from survival returns to it. And that is the real meaning of a healed bone, not recovery. But evidence that somewhere in ancient time, humans stopped letting injury decide the end. Because a healed femur means only one thing: someone stayed. Because survival had changed. For most of Earth's history, injury meant removal. A body that could no longer move became a body that could no longer matter. But humans began creating a different rule, one where weakness did not automatically become death, one where value was not measured only by strength. Every healed fracture discovered by archaeologists carries the same silent message: someone brought water, someone shared food, someone waded through fever, pain, and uncertainty, someone accepted the burden of another person's survival. And that burden changed our species, because the bone that healed inside your leg was rebuilding more than tissue. It was rebuilding a relationship between individuals, a relationship based on cooperation rather than competition, care rather than abandonment. For months, your survival depended entirely on the decisions of others. And when you finally stood again, unsteady, thinner, permanently changed, you carried evidence of something far greater than recovery. You carried proof that humans had become something new, a species capable of protecting weakness, a species willing to invest in lives that offered no immediate advantage. Perhaps that is why a healed femur is one of the most powerful objects ever found in the archaeological record, because it is not really a bone, it is a message. A message from deep time that says somewhere, in a world of predators, hunger, and cold, one human being became too weak to survive alone, and others refused to let them die. Maybe that was the moment we became truly human.